The other man, who was walking with 2 black dogs, said to the genie, "Now I am going to tell my story, and I am sure my story will be even more astonishing than the first one. But when I tell my story, will you forgive me 1/3 of this merchant's punishment?" "Yes," the genie replied, "if your story is more interesting than the deer story." With this agreement, the other old man began his story like this. "Great Jin's prince, you should know that we are 3 brothers, I and these 2 black dogs. Our father has passed away, and we inherited 1,000 ashrafis each. With this amount, all 3 of us adopted the same profession and started trading. A few days later, my older brother, who is now this black dog, decided to travel abroad to buy goods. With this intention, he sold everything he had and purchased supplies. He left for a year. When the year was up, a beggar came to my shop. "Hello," I said. "Hello," he replied. "Is it possible that you don't recognize me?" I looked closely and realized that he was my brother. I invited him to my house and asked him about his journey. "Don't ask me anything," he said. "You are looking at me. That's all that I have left. Remembering the troubles that have come my way over the past year will just bring back my pain." I closed my shop, gave him comfort in every way, took him to the bathhouse, and dressed him in my finest clothes. I checked my accounts and found that my capital had doubled, meaning I now had 2,000 ashrafis. I gave half of the amount to my brother and said, "Now, brother, forget about your losses." After some time, my other brother also expressed his desire to travel after selling his business. My older brother and I tried very hard to convince him, but he wouldn't listen. He set off with a caravan. A year later, he returned in the same condition as my older brother. I took care of him, and since I had 1,000 ashrafis, I gave them to him. He reopened his shop again. After some time, both of my brothers came to me and proposed that we travel together and do business. At first, I declined. "You have traveled," I said, "and what did you gain from it?" But they kept telling me, and for 5 years I refused. Eventually, I agreed. When they prepared and started buying things, it turned out that they had spent the 1,000 ashrafis I had given them. I said nothing to them. I shared my 6,000 ashrafis with them, giving them each 1,000 and keeping 1 for myself. We bought goods, loaded them onto a ship, and set sail with a favorable wind. After 2 months of travel, we arrived at a port. There we conducted very good trade. Then we bought the goods there and began to prepare to return. Just then, a beautiful woman in simple clothes stopped me at the shore. She came up to me, kissed my hand, and requested that I marry her and take her on my ship. At first I refused, but she pleaded a lot and promised that she would be a very good wife to me. Eventually, I agreed to her request. I bought beautiful clothes for her and married her. After the wedding, we boarded the ship and set sail. During the journey, I found so many qualities in my wife that I fell even more in love with her. But my brothers became jealous of my success and started plotting against me. One night, while we were sleeping, they threw my wife and me into the sea. But my wife was a fairy, so she didn't let me drown. She brought me to an island. As soon as morning came, she said to me, "When I saw you by the seaside, I became very attached to you. I presented myself before you in simple attire to test your goodness. Now I have saved your life and given you your reward. But I am very angry with your brothers, and I will not rest until I take their lives." I thanked the fairies, but I requested them not to take the lives of my brothers. I somehow managed to calm their anger. Then she transported me from that island to the roof of my house in an instant. After that, she disappeared. I opened the door and dug out 3,000 ashrafis that I had buried. Then I went to my shop, opened it, and received congratulations from my fellow traders on my return. Then I went to my shop, opened it, and received congratulations on my return from my fellow merchants. When I returned home, I saw 2 black dogs that came to me with sad faces. I was astonished, but the fairy reappeared and said, "Don't think about who these dogs are. These are your brothers. I've transformed them into this form for 10 years. Then they told me where I could meet them again and disappeared. Almost 10 years have passed, and I'm going to find them. On the way, he met the merchant and the old man with the deer, so he stopped with them. This is my story, O princes of the Jinn. Isn't this the most wonderful story? Yes, absolutely, the genie replied, and I forgive you 1/3 of this merchant's punishment. Then the third old man made the same request to the genie that the first two had made. The genie promised that if his story was more magnificent than both, he would forgive the rest of the punishment as well. Then he told his story, but I don't know his story. But it is definitely known that it was stranger than the other two stories. The genie was so amazed that he said, I will also forgive the rest of the merchant's punishment. You three showed interest in his favor. It is his good fortune. If you hadn't been there, he would have been dead by now. Saying this, the genie disappeared, and everyone was very happy. The trader thanked his friends, and then everyone went their separate ways. The merchant returned to his wife and children, and spent the rest of his days happily. In this way, the trader moved forward in life with new joys and memories. Their story became a symbol of a new beginning, where the power of love and friendship has always been of utmost importance. The businessman became an inspiration, not only for his family, but also for his friends and neighbors, spreading happiness in his community. In this festival, everyone came together to celebrate the joys of their lives, which strengthened the feeling of love and unity. The trader shared his story with new people, inspiring and filling their lives with courage. She carved a place for herself in everyone's heart like a jewel, inspiring and encouraging everyone. Everyone came together to celebrate the joys of life, proving that true friendship and family are always the most important. Their stories left a lasting impression on life, becoming a source of inspiration for future generations. In this way, the merchant committed to sharing every moment of his journey with the next generation, so they too could embark on a journey filled with courage and love in their lives. But, Your Majesty, Princess Scheherazade said, as beautiful as the stories I have just told you are, they cannot compare to the story of the fisherman. The king listened carefully, his eyes filled with curiosity, and he was interested in understanding why the fisherman's story was so special. In this way, he gave his story a new turn. As the night was coming to an end, he left his story unfinished. The Sultan was eager to hear the tale, so he said, All right, tell me the fisherman's story tomorrow.